The 10 horns of Revelation are not what you think. For as long as many of us can remember, we've been told the 10 horns of Revelation are a future political alliance. You've heard it, right? A revived Roman Empire, or maybe a 10-nation group born out of the European Union. Countless commentaries, sermons, and prophecy charts all point to a group of human kings who will one day hand their power over to the Antichrist. But what if that common interpretation, while not entirely wrong, is just the surface layer of a much deeper, stranger story? The Bible does say in Revelation 17:12 that the 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, and that verse is the foundation for the whole political theory. But let's be honest, sometimes the most obvious interpretation can provide the perfect cover for something else. What if the Bible itself drops clues that point to a power that isn't just political, isn't entirely human, and is far more ancient than any modern confederacy? In this investigation, we're not throwing out the old interpretation, but we are going to look at clues that suggest a far more sinister and supernatural reality hiding just beneath the text. We'll explore a shocking theory that these 10 horns are ancient, supernatural entities, and the proof has been hiding in the Bible all along. Section 1. The Countdown. Clues 10 through 7. Clue number 10. The limits of a political reading. Let's just start here. A purely political reading of Revelation feels small, doesn't it? The book of Revelation is cosmic. It's a story about a war spilling out of heaven, a dragon, beasts rising from the sea, and the King of Kings returning to vanquish his enemies. In a story filled with angels and demons, does it really make sense that the ultimate power behind the Antichrist is just a 10-nation committee? To see these figures as only politicians shrinks the breathtaking supernatural panorama of Revelation down to a simple geopolitical squabble. The powers at play here seem cosmic, not just congressional. Clue number 9. The ancient language of horns. Today, we think of horns on an animal, but in the ancient world, horns were dripping with supernatural meaning. They were symbols of divine power and authority. Gods in Mesopotamia and Egypt were shown with horned helmets to show their divinity. Kings wore them to signal a divine right to rule. The horn itself was a symbol of transcendent spiritual might, not just earthly power. So when John, a man living in that world, sees 10 horns, his mind wouldn't jump to a political subcommittee. He would have seen 10 sources of immense, divine or demonic power. The very symbol screams supernatural. Clue number 8. The company they keep. You can tell a lot about someone by their friends. So where do we find these 10 horns? They're sticking out of the head of a scarlet beast that rises from the abyss or the sea. This beast gets its power, throne, and authority straight from the dragon, who the Bible flat out identifies as Satan. This isn't the language of politics. It's the language of a supernatural coup. The horns aren't independent players who just decide to form a coalition. They are an integral part of a demonic entity, tools of a power that comes directly from the devil himself. Clue number 7. The ominous echo of Daniel's vision. Revelation isn't a standalone book. It's constantly talking with the Old Testament, especially the book of Daniel. In Daniel 7, the prophet sees 4 beasts representing a series of empires. The 4th beast, often identified as Rome, is terrifying and frightening and very powerful. And guess what? It also has 10 horns. John is clearly referencing Daniel's vision. But Daniel's vision wasn't just a political forecast. These beasts were monstrous, otherworldly creatures. The 4th one was scarier than all the rest. This sets a precedent that the 10 horns belong to a lineage of power that has always been more than just human. It's a spiritual force that wears the mask of empire. Section 2. Escalating the case. Clues 6 through 4. Clue number 6. The mystery of the 1 hour. Revelation 17 tells us these 10 kings get authority for 1 hour with the beast. People have debated what this hour means for centuries. A few take it literally, but most see it as a symbol for a very short, intense burst of power. But think about what that implies. Have you ever seen 10 nations, 10 world leaders, agree on anything unanimously, let alone instantly? The idea of a political coalition forming and acting with a single mind in a metaphorical hour seems to defy all political reality. But if these aren't 10 human kings trying to hash out a treaty, but 10 supernatural beings getting a direct, simultaneous power-up from their boss, the 1 hour makes perfect sense. It's not the hour of negotiation, it's the hour of activation. Clue number 5. The singular spiritual mission. So, what's the big political or economic goal of this 10-horned group? What land do they want? What resources are they trying to control? The Bible tells us their agenda, and it has nothing to do with human ambition. Their one and only stated goal is to wage war against the Lamb. That's not a political objective. It's a spiritual declaration of war. It is cosmic treason. Human empires fight for land, for money, for glory. This group has a single item on its to-do list: kill God. That motive gives away their true nature. This isn't a political agenda. It's a demonic vendetta. Clue number 4. The completeness of the number 10. In the Bible, numbers often carry symbolic weight. The number 10, for example, frequently suggests completeness or a totality of something. Think of the 10 Commandments representing the whole of God's moral law, or the 10 plagues, showing the fullness of God's judgment on Egypt. While not universally agreed upon, what if the 10 horns aren't meant to be counted as 10 literal nations, but are meant to signify the completeness of satanic rule on earth in the last days? It could represent a full and final consolidation of all rebellious world power, political, economic, and cultural, all united under one spiritual head. It's not just an alliance, it's the total mobilization of evil. Section 3. The Revelation, Clues 3 through 1. Clue number 3. The unmistakable chain of command. Let's follow the power. Where does the authority of these 10 horns come from? The text is incredibly clear. Revelation 17 says they receive authority as kings along with the beast. Okay, so where does the beast get its power? Revelation 13:2 tells us, "The dragon gave the beast his power and his throne and great authority, and the dragon is Satan." There's no gray area here. This isn't a group of kings who vote to give up their power. This is a direct, top-down order from the source of all evil. The horns aren't partners with the beast. They are its weapons, empowered by a direct demonic command. Clue number 2. The demand for worship. Now here's one of the most compelling clues. The beast, the one the horns serve, isn't just followed or admired. It is worshipped. Revelation 13:4 says people worshipped the dragon who had given authority to the beast. And they also worshipped the beast and asked, "Who is like the beast? Who can wage war against it?" Nations don't worship a political treaty. People don't bow down to NATO or the EU. Worship is for a spiritual or divine being. The fact that the beast's entire system demands and receives worship screams that it's fundamentally religious and supernatural. The horns aren't just enforcing policy, they're enforcing a global satanic religion. Clue number 1. The ultimate theory. A return of ancient beings? This final clue connects the end of the Bible all the way back to the beginning, and it's the core of this whole theory. Remember Genesis 6? It talks about a mysterious group called the Sons of God. Ancient Jewish tradition, and many scholars, interpret these as rebellious angels who left heaven, corrupted humanity, and kick-started the wickedness that led to the Great Flood. The New Testament seems to back this up, with Jude and Peter describing angels who did not keep their proper domain and are now held in everlasting chains under darkness for the judgment of the great day. Now think about the beast the horns are attached to. Where does it come from? Revelation says it ascends from the abyss, or the bottomless pit. This is the exact same place those ancient rebellious spirits are said to be imprisoned. So here's the theory. What if the 10 horns are not future human kings at all? What if they are the very same ancient, powerful, supernatural beings that were locked away in the abyss after the flood, finally let out for one last, desperate hour of rebellion against God? This is a speculative idea, but it would explain their single-minded hatred for God, their instant unity, and their otherworldly power. They wouldn't be starting a new rebellion. They'd be trying to finish an old one. This theory suggests the end times aren't just about the rise of a human dictator, but a terrifying echo of the days of Noah, a brief, final release of ancient evil onto the world stage. Conclusion: the so what? So why does any of this matter? If this theory is correct, and the 10 horns are supernatural, it changes how we see the end times. Our focus shifts from anxiously scanning the news to identify a 10-nation confederacy, to recognizing the deeper spiritual battle happening behind the scenes. It means the ultimate enemy isn't a political system, but an ancient, intelligent, and evil spiritual power. It suggests that the chaos, decay, and hostility towards God we see in the world aren't just random events. They could be symptoms of an underlying spiritual reality, setting the stage for the day these powers get their 1 hour. The enemy is older and smarter than any human alliance. But the good news, the ultimate truth of Revelation, is that their hour is short, and their war against the Lamb is destined for a swift and final defeat, because he is Lord of Lords and King of Kings. If this gave you a new perspective on biblical prophecy, hit that like button and share it with someone who might find it interesting. The conversation doesn't stop here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What other prophecies have you questioned? And be sure to subscribe for more deep dives that challenge the way we normally look at things.